Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the...
Good evening and welcome to the Three Amigos, where you can consider yourself at home whilst having a bottle or can of your favourite bevy and some food, glorious food. You asked for more this week, so back by popular demand is Liam Kennedy from the Shields Gazette, and he joins Keith from NCSL as we try to pick at a pocket or two from the truth behind the takeover. Welcome, lads. The public wanted more and they've got it. Liam's back for an hour tonight, and so is Keith from NCSL. Good to have you on, lads. And of course, Mitch and Steve, the Three Amigos, back together again. Over a year now we've been doing this on a Friday night, and still blown away by the figures. We get over 300 people waiting to watch us talk about Newcastle. It always blows us away. So welcome to everybody in the chat. And before we start chattering on for the next 2 hours before Matchday Live, just a couple of pictures being sent in. Forgive us because... names, etc., pass me by on occasions, but a lot of people have been getting the T-shirts and sending photographs in. So big thank you to everybody who sent the pictures in of the various T-shirts and the various ones that they bought from NUFCmatters.com. Absolutely brilliant. I love this one. Thank you very much. Somebody who knows how to work a phone. And this one as well, absolutely brilliant. So thanks very much for the support. Thank you for sending your photographs in. Another couple here. It's just nice to get them. It's just nice. The cult one, as you can see, we've done a war and trade on the cult T-shirt. So thank you to those who called us a cult. We even had somebody last week wanting to pose with us and got us all laughing there. So he said, we hope we weren't laughing at his T-shirt. Are you sure you weren't? We're just having a good old laugh, as we always do on a Friday night. And absolutely brilliant. Keep your photographs coming in. Keep your suggestions coming in as well for Duke of the Likey and your tweets of the week. We'll get them all. We do siphon through them, and we have a good old rumble, and got some great ones coming up later in the show. Don't forget, this is the last night for the Steve Hasty Rant Man T-shirt, which is on my Twitter at Steve Wraith. Get your bid in. Just place a bid underneath. I think it was at £50 this afternoon. So just get your bid in. Get yourself onto my Twitter at Steve Wraith. Give us a follow if you're not following us. And just make a bid. All proceeds go to the food bank as always. And I'll tell you who's winning that at around about 7 o'clock. And big thanks to John from Q-Tech. As you know, he makes those T-shirts for us and he does my memorabilia. He has knocked up some snazzy Three Amigos T-shirts and hoodies. And there you go. Back and front. He's knocked them up. So if you're a big fan of the show, the Three Amigos show, and you want to show your support for me and the lads, then please get yourself onto NUFCmatters.com's website and you can buy them. And Mitch, I think you're going to give a Three Amigos T-shirt away tonight, aren't you?
John's made one of the T-shirts available as a free giveaway tonight.
Go on, then. Have you got a question for us?
I've got a question for you, and it links to the Retro Show. One of our default settings on the Retro Show when we're trying to pick the teams is, has John Burridge played for this team? So the question, and John's in the chat, he's going to be looking for the first to answer in the chat. The question is, how many teams has John Burridge played for?
Okay, so there you go. How many teams has John Burridge played for? That's your question. Now, there's a few of you going to be going off to check that out on the internet, but go and find out how many teams John Burridge has played for. First person with the correct answer in the chat wins a Three Amigos T-shirt, and John will post that out to you. And whilst we're on, before we get cracking again, the wonderful donation by Bod and Keith Patterson. They've donated these three pictures, three signed, framed photographs. One of Kevin Keegan, fantastic photograph that. One of Alan Shearer, signed by Alan. and one of Gaza after scoring that wonderful goal at Wembley. So they are all up for grabs on the NUFC Food Bank Twitter, and it's going to be an auction. So Steve, I'll let you explain how that's going to work.
Yep, all people are going to do is just place their bids, their separate bids for whichever photograph they would like to bid for, and just say Keegan or KK, we'll accept that, obviously. Shira, and what was the third one? Gaza.
Gaza, yeah.
Shira, Gaza, KK. Just put that and then put your bid in. And then as the show's going through and just let it roll, and I'll keep a watch on the Food Bank Twitter account, and highest bid eventually gets it. I'm also going to throw in, anyone who watched the Amigos show, Steve, I'll also chuck this in for a bid. We talked on the Amigos show about meeting Rafa when we played Brighton, and I won the ball, not the match ball, obviously, but I won a signed ball in the raffle when we were guests of yourself and Rafa at the table. So I thought, you know what, it's just sitting here. I'll throw that in as well. So anyone wants to bid for signed football from the 2016 season, it was signed and handed over on the day of the play Brighton when we beat them 2-0 with Chrissy Houghton, which was around about the August start of the season. So that's up for grabs as well. So anyone can bid exactly the same. NUFC Food Bank. I did put on Twitter that was going to be my account, but I realised that my account was just going to be swamped. And I thought, you know what? Let's get it on the Food Bank. And if you're not already following the Food Bank account, then follow it. Send a DM. We'll keep a watch out on it and see how it goes. I've got the pictures here. If anyone doesn't believe that they're not real, I've got them all here. All three of them. Which way am I going? That way. There's Alan. Others are down here as well. Well, actually, already, believe it or not, Steve, already got a bid for the Gaza one of £100.
Wow,
which is amazing, brilliant.
I've also got a bid for Kevin Keegan, the KK one, for £100. Poor Alan's sitting here on his own now, so I've already got bids of £100 for two of them, which is amazing. We've only been going 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. So brilliant, just keep the bids rolling in. We'll keep it going, and then eventually we'll announce the winner.
So for the Food Bank Twitter, don't bid with us. It's not coming to us. It's going to the Food Bank. So please bid on the Food Bank's Twitter. The photographs will be up. It'll all be self-explanatory. But big thank you to you, Keith, and to Bod, who I know will be watching, for donating those wonderful prizes and keeping it going. We've had some great donations. Chris Hall, I remember, donated the Bobby Robson book. Rich Stories donated stuff. So plenty people doing that bit. And as we get a bit closer to September, and we know that lockdown is a thing of the past, hopefully, when we get to that period of time, we'll be putting on my event, the Evening with Newcastle Legends, which of course is September the 4th. September the 12th, sorry, at the Time Theatre. So we'll be giving some tickets to the Food Bank for that. And hopefully we have a great time, a great night, and we'll raise a lot of money for charity. So without further ado, I think we'll start with a football related thing before we come to people in the chat. We've got lots of questions coming in. I'll do my best to get through them. And it's congratulations, Keith, to our manager of the month. Sorry. Congratulations to our manager of the month, Steve Bruce. And joking aside, I mean, look, I've seen. By the way, there's a lot more offensive pictures going around than that today. I picked the weakest one. But listen, joking aside, fair play to Steve Bruce. Whatever's happened behind the scenes, they got it right. The players got it right. Brucey got it right. Graham Jones and the rest of the coaching staff got it right. Newcastle United are in the Premier League next season. None of us are celebrating it. None of us are over the moon with finishing wherever we end up finishing, because it's not good enough for a club of our size. But in the predicament we were in 6 weeks ago, Keith, it's a great result.
It is. It's unexpected, and it's just great to get where we are. And I'm looking forward to tonight massively. I think it's going to be a great show. I was sitting thinking today, someone was saying, you're going on, I says, you're not nervous? I says, no. And I was thinking back, when I was a kid, I played for our village and we won Durham County's five-a-side. We represented Durham in the All England five-a-side. And we weren't the best five footballers around, but all five were really good five-a-side players. And we did well at the England five-a-sides. And when I look tonight, I look round here and I think, if I was going for a takeover five-a-side, I think I'd pick you for. Because I think, without patronising it, you've got Liam, who you just know what you're going to get. There's all this is the truth. Steve's got this platform, which is the biggest around on NUFC matters or issues. And you've got two lads in Steve Hasty and Mitch, who's just done so much for the club over the years, and who I've known for years and worked with on campaigns 20 years ago. And when you're in here, you just feel people's got your back. And I just feel as though when I come on here, like I'm in the right place. And the one thing you lot's done, which has learnt me, is we've got every angle covered. And I'm going to blow a few gaffs tonight. I'm going to try and help the 100,000 fans who form the 99% of people who want the takeover by sharing a little bit of public information with them to show them how cases work. But for you lads, I'm going to blow a gaff for you because you've took that much rubbish about what you know and what you don't know. But the truth is, you know, I can confirm tonight, I don't tell lies, that you lot are massively connected. And when I got involved with this, I told you that I had to make sure there was a willing buyer and a willing seller. On that journey, I come across 3 here on this show, you know, which is Steve, and Mitch. And you play it down and you don't, you know, try and be in the know and you don't try and be clever. But I think the reason the figures are so big is because you just keep telling the truth and you just keep doing what fans want. You never make things up. I've never seen you once guess a date. I've never seen you once ever say this might happen then. In fact, I've seen you hold things back that you know and not do it. So I think tonight is about focusing on them pro takeover people, the 99%. And I think we're just going to have a brilliant show. Because when I look around, you're the kind of people I'd want watching me back. And in Liam, he's just, I don't know, he's just Mr. Reliable. And he's took shots and took digs during this campaign that he didn't have to take. He's took some for me. And he's took some with information. He could have had some belt and stories that's made television 2 weeks before anybody else. But he just said, if it's going to harm something, Keith, I'm not going to do it. Which brings us on to this week, because this week Amanda Staveley was in public, and I think she spoke brilliantly, and I think everybody had heard her, was uplifted by the way she spoke. But one thing she did do, she said very early on that I can't say too much about Newcastle because I'm on an NDA. And that prompted some people who know very little to say, well, that just shows that Keith Patterson can't be involved, because if he was, he would have signed an NDA and he would at the club. And by the way, I've been watching all these videos where they're talking about doing that. So if there's people studying our body language, we're going to do plenty of that tonight. But Amanda said she signed an NDA. And I've got to disappoint a lot of people because so have I. And I signed an NDA and so too has Gordon Steen. We both signed NDAs and I've signed a subsequent one. So the reason you sign an NDA is not to divulge information that body gives you. And I don't think people realise that. So if the body I signed the NDA with told me something, legally, I'd get my arse sued off if I was to share it. But what I can share and what I'm prepared to show some of the fans tonight is information that's in the public domain that you might not have seen or that I might have unearthed and that will have an impact on the case. And sharing stuff out the public domain doesn't harm anything because it's already out there to start with. And I think by doing that, sometimes it gives fans a lift up and it lets them know that we pretty much are watching everything that goes on. But it's been incredible the week we've had, because what we've been able to do is have a look at Richard Masters. So it's a bit like if you go to a football team, you know, if you're playing someone in the cup next week and they're from abroad, the normal thing to do is to go and send scouts abroad and see what's there. And if you went and saw Richard Masters this week, he was on telly. And I've got to say, I hope he improves before the court case, because he's going to get his ass smacked if he doesn't. If that's Richard Masters at his best, I've got to say, boy, you've got some problems. You need to tie yourself to the chair and you need to calm yourself down a bit, because, you know, you probably are a nice lad, but, oh, God, a guy only asked you one question, what's happened to Newcastle Takeover? I thought you shit yourself. And I think he needs to accept what they've been doing and accept what's been happening to the ESL. So tonight, I wanted to go through, I spoke to the competition lawyers this week, and I said to them, when you go to court, I said, what are you basically trying to prove? And he says, normally on a competition action, you're trying to prove collusion, which is working together. You're trying to prove abuse of a dominant position, which could be a Big Six or a Premier League. And you're trying to prove collective lobbying, where somebody is deliberately trying to get some people to do things against one other person. And this case is very different, because this case has the Prime Minister of this country announcing that we've got a cartelling operation. So if a case started tomorrow, and I mean, I'm not a mind reader, you get something called an opening speech, is how we would call it, but people would go in there and the lead QC would explain their case to the judge, and then the claimant, the defendant would do the same, and they would get a chance to put a statement down of why they were there. Because the battle lines are already drawn. There's no springing surprise on people. By then it's already drawn, disclosure's done, and the case runs. In this case, I think it will be very different, because I can't think of many competition cases whereby an opening QC could stand in front of a judge and say, Your Honour, this case is very different to other cases, because often you try and establish a cartel as an operation. Our own Prime Minister has confirmed that there's a cartel in operation in English football. So we're not so much here to prove there's a cartel, albeit we can do it if you want. I think we're here to say what impact that cartel had on the stopping and the blocking of a takeover at Newcastle United. And it's a completely different case. And that's why, since writing to Richard Masters in August the 5th last year, and pushing and driving solicitors, QCs, the club and others to run this action, and for us to run it, it was the only way it was ever going to get solved, in our opinion, or in my opinion. I thought it needed a competition action. And now that's taken effect, I think you'll see in the coming days what happens. And I don't think they can deny it. I don't think they can not answer it. I think what will happen now is they will go and meet and decide if they're going to challenge it, how it's going to be challenged, and what the timeframes are. The club will push to get it done quick, and the EPL will push back to try and make it last longer. But if the judge will decide, and the whole nature, if it goes fast track, that is to get it done, as the word says, as fast as it can. So I think we've got exciting times ahead. And when you guys are ready, I don't know if you want to do it now or do it later, but we can run through some parts of things, just small things. It's in the public domain already, because the evidence will be made of three.
But do it now, Keith. What I would like to do is, can you sort your mic out? Because I've tried to, by process of elimination, I'm trying to work out who's got the crackly mic, and it's you. So if you can sort your microphone out, yeah, thanks, Neil. Pointing the finger there. If you can sort your mic out, and I'll get the original question I asked was about Steve Bruce and Graham Jones. But thanks for the kind words. Sort your mic out. We'll come back to you. I'm just going to go around the houses and ask the lads just about Graham Jones and Steve Bruce. Get your mic sorted out. We'll come back to you, and we'll get back to that. Neil, Steve Bruce deserves manager of the month.
Look, I've made it clear all season. I know we sometimes get stick because we're giving Bruce stick, but I think we've also given credit where it's due, and there would be credit where it's due, because he seems to have concentrated everything into 1 month. And so, well done. We've got safety, but nobody's doing backflips about it, because we should be aiming higher than that. He then comes out on Wednesday and gives that interview to TalkSport. That was along the lines of what he's done all season: insult the intelligence of the fan base, and insult the fan base, basically. For him to trot out a line about expectations on a radio show and a radio station that constantly bangs the over-expecting Geordie drum is naive at best, ham-fisted at best, and probably worse than that. We then find the next day he's pulled up on it, probably because somebody at the club's got hold of him and said, hey, you do know you're going to have a crowd there on your next home game. And he stuck it into reverse quicker than a platoon of Italian tanks and gone down the, excuse me and my limited vocabulary. You expect me to understand you have a limited vocabulary? Weren't you the one going on to the Premier League channel talking about the 3 books you've written recently? Give it a rest, man. Come on. It's insulting to us as a fan base and the football intelligence of the fan base about what we're watching, what we're dealing with. Wilson's picked up another hamstring injury. That, for me, questions, was he fit to bring back in the first place? Thank God he got through the games he did and delivered the goals he did. I can bang on about hamstring injuries and how they should be assessed till I'm blue in the face. I've been to the FIFA medical conferences. I've talked with Pep Guardiola's medical teams. I know how he assesses it, and I guarantee we won't assess it in that way. we won't even have the equipment to assess it in the way he does. So for me, yes, you know what? Praise where it's due. We've reached safety, but we should have done it much earlier than we did. We shouldn't have been sweating the way we have, looking at the league table, getting anxious when Fulham win a run of form. It should have been put away much, much earlier than that. And even then, this week, there's still more rumblings about stuff happening on the training ground this week. The little mole's been very busy whispering about certain things shouted at Steve Bruce and Steve Agnew by a certain Mr. Ritchie. And again, that tells me there's stuff going on there. The long staffs aren't happy. Everybody knows that they're not happy. You don't need to be a football insider to work out that the long staffs have been treated unfairly all season, and they're still getting it. And so there's still too much behind the scenes that isn't right. And I was quite happy, on last Friday night when I was getting shouted at by the Ben for screaming at the television and telling the referee to blow his effing whistle. I was quite happy to sit here and talk positively about getting the results and looking ahead. That at least we've got another season of Premiership to look forward to. That's all we ask as a fan base, and we've said this all season, is that I have a bigger ambition than 17. And if that's over expectation, then I give up. I just give up. And to trot that out the way he did was unfair. It really was an insulting to the fan base, like I said. To pick up on something that Keith said about Richard Masters in his interview, I saw somebody debating between what Amanda Staveley had said about, well, I've signed an NDA, so I can't see anything. He made some very interesting facial expressions, but the thing he added on, and there must be somebody in the media department at the Premier League still banging his head on the desk now, because he said, I can't talk about Newcastle United or any talks. Hang on, you weren't asked about any talks or discussions. What talks? Are you talking about arbitration? Are you talking about the competition case? Or are you talking about something else? And that's a gaff. That's a slip. And that's when you put him under pressure, that's what he does. That's my take on that, just to add that on there.
Great stuff. No, good insight as always. Liam, me and you spoke about Steve Bruce's interview earlier this week on Tuesday night. Great show, people, if you want to catch up with it. As always, good figures as well. Watching that, over 4,000 have watched it this week. Get on it if you haven't watched it already. But Manager of the Month, he deserves it, Liam, in my eyes. I've given him a bit of praise towards the back end of this season. For whatever reason it's happened, he's the manager. He deserves it.
Yeah, of course he does. I think there was a real collective effort. I think we joke about the Graham Jones impact, but Graham Jones deserves a lot of credit. I think there's certain players in that dressing room who really pulled everyone up by their bootlaces, your Matt Ritchies and players like that. I think they deserve a massive amount of credit. I think Bruce, I think as a fan base, sometimes we might be guilty of criticising Bruce when everything goes wrong and maybe giving Graham Jones and players the credit when everything goes well. And everything has gone reasonably well for the last month. I mean, to be honest, we're talking about the idea of not celebrating, being safe from relegation. I'll be absolutely honest, from mid-December through till probably February, and then for a big section of March, I thought Newcastle United were goners. I really did. I thought I didn't see how this team could get enough results to stay in the division. They only got themselves into the mess. It wasn't a case of Fulham playing particularly well or others at the bottom doing really well. They only picked up the odd result. It was Newcastle United's horrendous form that got them there. And that's the whole thing that we can't forget. The narrative of this season has been Newcastle have been utterly dreadful and have been the architects of their own downfall and have dragged themselves out of it. So that's something that we have to remember moving forward. I do believe that Newcastle United are, look, if there's no takeover, and I'm not going to sit here and sort of profess to say that I guarantee there will be one in this summer. If Steve Bruce is still here next season, I do in a weird kind of way believe that even though I think it's dicing with death, playing another season now with Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce, I actually do believe they are slightly better prepared. I would like to see what Graham Jones can do with the players in terms of setting the team up, setting up a certain different way of playing, because he had a big impact. He brought in the press, he brought in the false nine, the 4-3-3. and it worked to a limited amount of time until players got injured. Then we've seen the reboot in the international break, where he went to the 5 at the back and the 2 up front. So there is 2 distinct ways of playing they've managed to formulate with a little bit of time on the training pitch. I'm quite interested to know what it'll be like after some of that. Look, I'll put everything out there. I don't want to see Steve Bruce at the football club next season. I don't think he's capable enough. I've never thought that since the day he walked through the door, and I've said that all the way throughout. I've always willing to give him a chance, but he's still done nothing to disprove my theory in the first place that he should never have been able, never had the ability to walk through the door in Newcastle United. He does deserve credit, as does Graham Jones, as does the player, all of the players, certain sections of the players anyway. But let's not kid ourselves here. For example, let's go back to the Burnley game, and that was one of the turning points. It was Alan St Maximin. It was throw Alan St Maximin on and hope he could do something, and he did. And for 2 or 3 games, we were basically relying on one player. Now we know Alan St Maximin is an enigmatic figure. He'll drift in and out of seasons, and he'll pick up injuries here and there. And Callum Wilson is a typical fast fibre type centre forward, where he relies upon the hamstrings and those type of things. And they do go from time to time with those type of players, similar with Alan St Maximin. We can't be in this position again next season, no matter who the owners are. There's got to be some logical thinking in the way that this squad is built. The squad was put together very poorly last summer. This is no criticism of Andy Carroll's abilities, but there has been absolutely no point in having Andy Carroll in that 25-man squad. He has not been used. The lad's been fit for the full season. What was the point in putting him in the squad? What was the point in giving him a new contract if you weren't going to use him? Dwight Gale is another case in point. He got himself back fit and never played for about 3 months before he eventually, having taken the huff, got the chance and didn't take it himself. But these players are neither use nor ornament. There needs to be some joined-up thinking this summer, and fingers crossed there can be if Steve Bruce remains in the job. But I think he deserves credit for what's gone on, but I think everyone else does as well. And we've always got to have in the back of our mind, Newcastle United would not have been in this mess had it not been for the mess that Steve Bruce created.
Yeah, good points. Well made as always, Liam. Steve, your take on Brucey getting the Manager of the Month award?
2 wins, 2 draws, 4 games, 1 game every week, no midweek games, 7 days between each game. Sounds great on paper. Sounds great, brilliant. But I'll just go back to the run beforehand. 3-0 defeat against Brighton, a scraped draw against Villa with a last-minute goal from Lascelles, a shocking game against West Brom drawn, a shocking game against Wolves where we drew, defeat against Man United, defeat against Chelsea, a win against a 10-man Southampton, a defeat against Palace, a good win, a very, very good performance at Everton, which was the last time that we saw Callum Wilson before playing a full game before the other day. A shocking performance against Leeds, a shocking performance in a 2-0 defeat against Villa, a 3-0 defeat against Arsenal, a 1-0 defeat against Sheffield United, a 2-0 defeat against Arsenal in the Cup, a 2-1 defeat against Leicester, a 0-0 draw against Liverpool, and a 2-0 defeat against Man City. And that was after a defeat against Brentford in the Cup. So if there's a Manager of the Month award, then surely going back to the week before Christmas, there's a Worst Manager of the Month award also gets given out, and he's stacked high for 4 months with that. That's what I'd say.
Fair enough. We've all got different opinions on it, which is what it's all about. And as we've said many times, we don't always agree on this show. I've noticed in the chat, before we come back to Keith, a lot of people are talking about the B. And some new people on the chat will be thinking, what on earth are they going on about? So I will give a shout out to the sponsors now. Big shout out to Spider VPN for all your internet security. The lads have sponsored us for the last 4 months. Big shout out to the lads. Hope you're doing well. Speak to you soon. And also to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wolves and Newcastle, and the makers of all of our t-shirts. Also the makers of the virtual bucket, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk, the Matchday bucket. You can donate to the Matchday bucket tonight. Simply go on that website and donate however much you want. Now, when you donate this time round, we've also got a prize. So you need to look at that. There you go, a watch, specially designed one-off watch. If you donate anything to the food bank tonight, you go into the prize draw, and John will be making the prize draw, I think he said, at the end of the season, for that wonderful watch. So any donation to the food bank tonight, that will be a chance for you to win that. Also, a big shout out to John at Jab Signature. His new range is coming out very soon. He makes all of our promotional flyers. Now, the B, skipsandbins.com have come on board this month. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Now, this is the B. Now, I asked Scott from Skips and Bins, it doesn't have a name. And he said he was happy tonight on the Three Amigos for a suggestion. Now, if you've got a suggestion about what you want to call the B, then stick it in the chat below. And I think what we'll do is we'll ask John from Q-Tech to pick out the best three. And from the best three, it'll come down to a vote, ultimately, between me, Keith, Steve and Mitch, because Liam will be off to do the match by then. So put your names in, put your suggestions in the chat. We'll go through them. I'll try and highlight them on the screen. John, pick your top three in the chat, and we'll come to you before the end of the show, and we will name the B officially tonight. My suggestion is what is that, your dog, Mitch?
No, it's somebody else's dog over the road. We've got a particularly barky neighbour.
I love it. Okay, so my suggestion will be Joe Harvey, because he's the last person to win a trophy for Newcastle, of course. Joe Harvey, 1969. You can see how we're going here. We had a suggestion earlier in the week, Rafa B. Benitez. So whatever you want, come up with some suggestions. John will have a check in the chat, and the B will be christened tonight. Okay, Keith, back to you, mate. Over to you, really, and see whether your mic's working. It should be out there. You're unmuted, mate.
Okay,
I'm going to mute Mitch because he's got crufts going on outside. Go on, Keith. Over to you and what you were going to talk about earlier.
I think a good idea tonight is to work with the people who want to take over and show them bits of stuff, because there's three kinds of evidence that get submitted. The first kind is going to be stuff that NCSL's picked up, both publicly and privately, when we've been doing our investigations, and we've gathered a lot of information, and we send it down this weekend. We sent some last week, and we send some this weekend, and it's a mammoth amount of documents. I met Steve Hasty and his brother this week, and they were sort of gobsmacked as to how much evidence was really there. But tonight, what I said was, we'll try and go through two or three of the arguments, and they're just points. And what I'm going to do is, so that I don't breach any NDAs, I will give you some evidence which is in the public domain, which will cause anybody sitting in a competition action problems. Because a QC once said to me, he said, when you go on a stand, Keith, they only have to prove you're lying once, and then you're a liar right throughout that case. And a lot of people have gone on the way to say that Richard Masters and Hoffman and them are prone to contradict themselves. Some people call it disingenuous, and some people call it lying. And it'll be the job of the QC to try and prove the key executives at the Premier League to be lying. So let's look at something. Steve's got a document which you might be able to put on the screen, and if you can put that up so people can read. And basically, this is just a letter that Richard Masters wrote to, I believe, a QC. No, that's the beIN letter. Have you got
right? Okay, you'll have to keep us right. Is it this
Sorry,
one?
mate. It's this one here. So I'm told from the people who did the investigation, Mr. Horton's supposed to be a QC, a respected QC from the south. And Steve, you might want to read it out. I write and reply.
Okay. Dear Mr. Horton, I write and reply to your letter of 23rd of June concerning the prospective takeover of Newcastle United Football Club by a company based in Saudi Arabia. You will appreciate that these matters are often subject to media speculation, but at their heart are due processes required by UK law and by the Premier League's own rules, which cannot be conducted in public and on which we cannot comment. However, I can assure you that these processes go beyond those required by UK company law, and they are applied with equal rigour to every prospective purchase of a Premier League club. Yours sincerely,
Richard Masters. So Masters gets questioned by a London QC. If you go back that letter, just have a look what the second line says. It's quite relevant, because He, at this time, and this is dated, during the takeover talks when there were no red flags, and he confirms the takeover, if you look on line 2, was by a company based in Saudi Arabia. His words, not ours. We not put the words there. So if he's on the stand, our QC would ask him the question, what did you mean, Mr. Masters, when you wrote to this QC and you confirmed to him in your own words, without any prompting, that Newcastle was going to be taken over by a company? Because now your case, 6 weeks later, that they become a state. Your whole argument is that PIF is not a company, it is a state. So why did you not, at the time when you were going to pass this takeover, turn around to this QC and say to him, we are in the throes of talking to Newcastle United about being taken over by the state of Saudi Arabia or the government? And there's been so much rubbish written that MBS, the prince, is involved in this case. It's got nothing to do with him at all. Whatever role he's got in the state, in the government, in the royal family, and in PIF is irrelevant. What they're trying to determine to get this takeover done, and the reason it's being held up, is that Newcastle United have been accused of being taken over by a country. But can you see the word country in there? And can you not see something that it's a company actually based in a country? So Masters will be on the stand and will be presented by lots of evidence. This might not be strong enough because some of the documents I've seen are stronger. But if a document like this was used, they would say to Masters, Mr. Masters, your words, what did you mean by a company in Saudi Arabia? And he would answer that question. Then after that, they would say to him, so why did it become a state? Or at what time did it become a state? Because it wasn't in April, but then it became in May. Tell me what changed it. And so evidence like that will be thrown at Richard Masters and be thrown at various people in the Premier League. And they'll have to account for why they put into writing that it was actually a company. Because that is the whole argument, that this is a company, and PIF is a company, and PIF is not a state. It's an actual standalone business. And it doesn't matter who the directors are, that's irrelevant. It's just whether it's split between those various things. The next one, a lot of people's asked us about, and it's Richard Keys. And people keep asking us the same question. They say, have you got the Richard Keys stuff? We've got a timeline of Richard Keys for everything he's ever said and every tweet he's ever written and deleted. So we've got all the original tweets that he's deleted. And when people start deleting tweets fast and furious, they do it for a reason. Nobody does it by chance. And we've got those on the timeline. The memory, I said to you last week that we'd done a trial send down of 2 gigabyte. You all know how much is in a megabyte. You might get a photograph. But a gigabyte is considerable memory. We're just in the throes this weekend of sending 75 gigabyte of evidence, which it's enough documents to fill an office. It's an enormous amount of documents. And 75...
Can I just say, Keith, I can confirm that because I saw the piles of evidence stacked up in your office when I was down there during the week. I mean, it's a colossal amount of data that you've collected, a colossal amount of info. I was gobsmacked, to be perfectly honest. I just thought I just wanted to say that because it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I had Steve and Jed down this week, and we talked about the takeover for a couple of hours. And when you're talking to someone face to face, it's a lot easier to share things with them, as long as you don't breach your various stuff. But when you can show them a document, just hand them a document and say, what do you think of that? And their eyebrows, hit the roof. And we're not trying to be clever or trying to be, as you call, in the know or anything. We just, I'm a fan. I'm a football fan. And if I see a takeover and I see Newcastle compete again, or if I see a continuance of the Keegan era, if I see something that builds to that level and then continues at that level, because we never won anything with the Keegan, but I'd take that kind of enjoyment again. I'd take that pride of travelling around the country where we were everybody's second favourite team and where my colours were worn with pride, and I didn't want to go in a box. I wanted to go behind the goal, and I wanted to go into the ground at 10-3 because I wanted to go in the pub and sing before I got to the match. So to go back to that would be enough for me. When Steve was here, I was able to bounce stuff off him and show him stuff and gauge his reaction and say, Steve, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? And I went, Jesus Christ. You were quite surprised by what we send in, but you've got to remember what we send, we're just fans. We're nothing more than fans. Yeah. And when we send out...
Yeah, I was going to say, got to point out here that what you showed me was stuff that was in the public domain that I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
I was gobsmacked by it, to be perfectly honest, before anyone asks. But what also really took me by surprise, Keith, was the fact that we were down there. We came down at lunchtime. We were there for about 4 hours. And I could just tell by looking at you, and Jed commented on the way out that we'd actually given you 4 hours away from the whole thing. You know, it looked like we'd taken a bit of a weight off you. I know you were going back to do more work, but the amount of effort and amount of work that you're putting in. But I think it's important that I did mention the fact that what you showed me was stuff that, as you pointed out, was in the public eye. It was in the public domain. It was there, and it's stuff that you've managed to surface. Stuff that I thought I kept in touch with the takeover. I thought I kept in touch with social media and the way things had gone on since last August. But even I was surprised by the sort of documentation that you've gathered, to be perfectly honest. And I know that if Mitch had been there, his eyes would have been on stalks like mine when they'd seen the volume and the content.
I'd have been picking through it, looking for more stuff, because you know what I'm like. You know what it is, and this is the kind of thing I see with what you're doing, with the examples you've got tonight. It's terminologies matters. The odd phrase matters, and why it matters is because it can show a change in attitude, a change in thought, change in process. Because I think that's, on this side of everything, the feedback I've had in this region is that there was a turning point where something changed. The attitude was different and the terminology was different. And that's exactly why letters like that, where he starts off saying company, not state, and then 4 weeks later it's state, matters. And it really does matter, because it shows a change in thinking.
Yeah, you're right, Mitch. And there was another letter, Keith, though. There was another you hadn't mentioned. There was another letter that you showed me that was a letter that you had written.
Yeah.
To Richard Masters.
5th of August.
But yeah, exactly. I was going to say it was around about the 6th of August, wasn't it? And I don't know whether I should. I'm not giving away anything here, I hope.
No, nothing at all. No.
You know, I mean, you actually told Richard Masters about the ESL, about the European Super League in your letter. Am I right in saying that? You actually...
I didn't mention the words European Super League because I didn't know what it was going to be called, but I mentioned this. I mentioned the 6 teams. I told him which 6 teams are going to cause the trouble. I told him that he needs to look out at the 3 things I mentioned earlier about collusion and abuse of a dominant position. I told him about collective lobbying. And I told him, what I did was I listened to what Amanda Stabley said and I bought her story. I believed what she said. She said, particularly Tottenham and Liverpool had stopped this takeover. And what she said to us was, if you want this to happen, you need to stand up and speak. And so when Peter Baker rang me and he said, you know, we need to do something. And he said, we need a letter off you, Pato. And I thought, oh, here we go. So I did the letter, which is that letter we're talking about. But when you took it off us, you had like some dinner. You read it, and Steve was just said, "Hell, it's like calling it's Mystic Mag again." But it was about Richard Marty's. You need to be really careful before you go and do this, because if you do this, that's illegal, that's illegal, that's illegal, and don't put it past fans in Newcastle United to rise up and stand up against you. I didn't think it was going to be me. I thought I was right about some of you. I thought I was right about the fan base. But it's funny when things happen, people sort of stand back and let you get through there. They might say, let him come through, he'll have a go. And that's really what's happened. But that letter, I think I must have been asked for it 10 times on DMs this week. And I said, so I spoke to Liam Kennedy, who Saturday tonight. And are you still going to do that, Liam? You talk about releasing that letter so people can have a read of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little look over it probably tomorrow morning, and we'll maybe get something out tomorrow. I'll have to double check it through the legals, like Keith. I'm not sure if you've used any sort of colourful language or anything like that.
It was a really nice letter. It was to my mate Richard, and I think
there was no colourful language that I saw, and there was no coloured pencils used either.
So I guess this is an NUFC Matter exclusive in the sense that, Keith, you didn't just write one letter; you wrote many letters.
I wrote just bury some of that, you know, like I wrote a letter to Boris Johnson, got a load of like criticism for it. So I wrote him a letter last week and recorded delivery of a letter last week. So I've had letters back off the people representing Boris Johnson, and I've sent him 2 letters now. I've sent Keir Starmer a letter. I've had a response from him. I've had people think that we wrote one 14-page letter to the EPL. We've had 10 letters back and forward from the EPL, and every letter we've had has been considerable, several pages, and it's been put together either by a competition QC or by a lawyer. So we don't write letters ourselves when it's legal. We use the best we can find. So we went to what I consider the best competition lawyer QC in the country, and we had a 14-page case built up. And I said to you last week, it's incredible that when I first went with this case, and I got a competition QC together, and I took the case to people involved in the takeover, they weren't going to do competition. I'm not going to play that down. They were going down the route of trying to arbitrate this by the various routes the Premier League offer here. And I said that clearly that if you do that, you'll be at a disadvantage, because the one thing you won't get is disclosure. And arbitration doesn't afford you disclosure. And disclosure is what will win this game. There's no way you can form a European Super League, ESL. You kind of build that campaign up and do it without collusion. Think about it. How can the 6 richest companies, or looks like the 6 with most debt when I read it, mine, when I see Tottenham at 1.2 billion overdrawn, but how can the 6 greediest companies in an industry come together and miss the 14 have-nots out without colluding? It's physically and totally impossible. And every letter I've got...
Keith, the thing I find amazing is you have been working in one part of the football world for the last year. Steve and I have been talking to slightly different parts of the football world for the last 2, 3, 4 years plus.
Yeah.
We've all seen where the threat for a European Super League was coming. We've all heard where it was coming from, where it would be financed from, who was going to do the telly, all of that. We've all heard it inside football from different people. And that tells me the people involved at the top of it, in the Premier League and in the Football League, either knew about it and were arrogant enough to think it wouldn't happen, or knew about it and had stuff lined up for themselves out the back end of it. And I cannot decide in my own head which. Either, I really don't. I don't know whether it's arrogant or collusion on some of their part. I mean, I've chucked one name out that I'm damn sure I would have had an ESL job on the back of it, and it's not Masters and Hoffman, by the way.
Yeah.
But either way, football's been talking about this. I wouldn't even say clandestinely. It's been sort of talking about our coffee tables and in lunch breaks and stuff like that for years. And it was the worst kept secret.
And if it was talked about on WhatsApp, or talked about in text, or talked about in email, or talked about in letters, that's evidence. You'll never get rid of it. You won't obliterate it, because a document sends 2 ends. So if I send a document to you, I've got to wipe mine and wipe yours. And when I hand the documents over to Disclosure Company, which I explained about last week I'd worked with, you've got to get something over. It's like putting a car and painting a car and putting some filler in. You've got to make sure that looks like there's nothing missing. And technology now, police will tell you, you cannot wipe anything without destroying it. So if, for example, I send an email to Steve Wraith tonight and we go to court in 4 years' time and he presents a document that's come from me and I don't produce a computer that sent that document, the judge is going to look at me and say, you're at it. You're scamming it. So they have to come up with all the WhatsApp groups and all of everything. And over the coming weeks, I mean, next Friday, I'll run you through one of the investigations we did on other Premier League takeovers. I'll just pick a team and I'll just say this is what happened with that team, and I'll run you through what what's on them, and I'll show you how corrupt or how irregular it is. Whereas Newcastle's is a lot of people say that's us. We coming in and they're saying, "Well, you're part of the state." Well, you didn't say we were 2 months ago, mind, until Hoffman joined, and that is in the timeline. When Gary Hoffman joins, he becomes significant to when the red flags come, which brings me on the next bit of evidence I wanted to bring in. And
Well, I'll
this
tell
is
you what, can I hold that thought? We'll do it in parts because Liam's only
Right.
got about 10 minutes left. He's got to do some pre-match prep for the match. So
Sorry.
don't apologise. People love listening to this, and it's about time you started sharing some of this stuff. And I know that some people like the old format. I've seen a couple of comments today saying, "Oh, it was good when you, Mitch, and Steve were on. It's getting political and stuff like that." I've seen a couple of comments, but this is important. It's about the future of our football club. We're the only people who can give you the advice and the information and break it down for you. We've seen on Twitter, there's a lot of false stories going out. We can paint you the correct narrative and you can take out of it what you want. And it is the correct narrative because we're all connected to different sides of the deal. We've all got contacts, good contacts. So to listen to Keith is very important because he can paint the picture and he can put it in layman's terms. So I'm afraid that's what we're going to do for the rest of the show tonight. If you don't like it, unfortunately, that's what we're going to do. I can only apologise, but I think the majority of people watching, and there's nearly 1,000 of them tonight, will enjoy the next hour because it's quite interesting what Keith sent us. Liam, let's look ahead to the match. And what I'm going to do is, you normally miss this bit, but I'm going to play Toon Stato.
Hello, amigos. Finally, we are safe, so we can look more in a more relaxed way for the game tonight against Manchester City. Manchester City is, believe it or not, the favorite opponent for Newcastle at St. James's Park. 49 wins against them in the league. We have the same number of wins against Aston Villa. However, we have only one win in 26 against them in the Premier League. That famous win for Rafa Benitez in Jan 2019. And that fantastic performance by Isaac Hayden, Sean Longstaff, and basically everybody in the team. Looking on a more positive side, we have only one defeat against Man City at St. James's Park in the last 4 games between the teams, although Manchester City have taken the lead in all of them. Callum Wilson will be a big miss tonight. As everybody knows, he's our top goal scorer with 12. The next top goal scorer for Newcastle is Joe Willock with 5 in the league. And he is the first player to score in 4 consecutive appearances for the Toon since a guy called Michael Owen. So, what to say for tonight? The team should really try to go for it. Man City have 42 out of 51 points so far away from home, and they are on course to set a Premier League record for 12 consecutive wins, but why not try to stop them?
Great stuff as always from Andrea, and believe it or not, Joe is still a bit camera shy, and he's always going to work. Joe is our Toon tipster. I think that's my favourite bit of music. I love it. Thanks to Neil from Media Arts for sorting that one out. Brilliant.
You're a bloody child of the 70s, mate, I tell you.
Joe Walker sent us anyway. This is the betting tips, Liam. Evening all, hope you're well and breathing that never in doubt sigh of relief. As you might expect, the newly crowned champions are hot favourites for tonight's game with odds as short as 1-4 for the City win. Newcastle are attempting 10-1. However, I'm sure the Mags will be on the beach now. 5-1 the draw, with City having their eyes on other prizes and Newcastle having a free shot might just provide the best value. Personally, I'd keep your money in your pocket for the outright result. If you fancy goals, 8-15 for over 2.5 goals in the match. Just under evens for both teams to score. City 2-0 is 13-2. Newcastle 1-0, 25-1. And the 1-1 draw, 12-1. Aguero favourite to score any time, followed by a raft of his colleagues before we surprisingly see Andy Carroll appear in the book as Newcastle's most fancied goal scorer at 7-2. More realistically, we have Miggy at 4s and ASM at 5s, Joe Willock at 7s, and consider the run he's on, it might be worth a shout. A popular bet of mine is Newcastle to win either half, which tonight is 3-1. So not much to get excited about, says Joe. He says he'll be placing a bet each week on Newcastle games with all winnings going to the food bank. So thanks to Joe for that. He says, please don't expect thousands, Mr. Hasty. He says, this week, £5 on City to win over 2 goals in the match, over 1 card, over 7 corners, and ASM to have a shot on target, which is 6-1. He says, bet safely, and that's from Joe, the Toon tipster. Thanks very much, Joe, as always, for your work. Wonderful. Liam, give us your rundown on tonight. What can we expect from the team, and what are you expecting from the game, mate?
Really, really tough one tonight, isn't it? Really, you can't get around it. I'd be interested to know. I haven't had any tips about the team. I can't give you any early ones today. It's an interesting one. Is he going to make changes? I would love to have seen certain players who haven't really been involved get chances towards the end of the season. Because look, I know I want to beat. See, Bruce has said wants to beat title points tallies, etc. I don't think it matters too much. I would like to see Elliot Anderson get some games. I want to see Matty Longstaff get some games. I think we've got to work out whether Dwight Gale is going to be an option or not. I suspect if I was him, I wouldn't want to keep Dwight Gale on the books. I don't think he's really up to it as a backup striker to Callum Wilson. But I think if you're going to keep players like this in around the squad, he's going to have to play them. And it wouldn't surprise me tonight if he does make a few changes. But my predicted team that I put out this morning, I would probably just look to Joe Linton probably from the bench to come in for Callum Wilson. That might be a little bit controversial. There might be some people out there who think, "Are you crackers? Have you lost the plot, Liam?" But no, in my opinion, I think he was a little bit unlucky actually to go out the team. It was probably his best run of form. Maybe the 6 to 8 weeks previous. He had a couple of off games, but didn't they all? But I think he's done all right. He's far from the answer. He's not the answer to anything really at Newcastle United. But of all the people in and around the squad who I would like to see brought back into the side, it probably would be Joe Linton. Because actually, in a weird kind of way, he added a decent little bit of balance up there. He's no Callum Wilson. He isn't quick off the deck, which Wilson, he hasn't got that yard of pace. He's very one-paced in everything that he does. But I wouldn't mind seeing him brought back into the side today because it gives St Maximin something to play on. Miguel Almiron really has been the biggest disappointment for me over the last how would you say, probably since the Tottenham game. He came back from injury and he was poor against Brighton, but the Tottenham game he was excellent. I was at St James's Park that afternoon, and he was brilliant. But he's been very, very poor since. And I think he's, in a weird kind of way, Miguel Almiron's probably, because of his hard work, because of his graft, he gets shunted and shifted around into positions where he becomes invaluable. His work in midfield, his graft is incredible, but it doesn't suit his game at all. It's a real shame. You found a position for him, the false 9, a little bit further forward, where he can run in behind, he can drop into holes. And look, I hope those little holes are going to pop up today. If there's any team, I know Pep Guardiola is the best in the business, but if there's any team where Newcastle United are going to have to play on the break, then those pockets of space might open up for an Almiron, or open up for an Alan St Maximin. It could be tonight, much like it was against Liverpool. If you remember back on the break, then Newcastle had pockets of space all over the place. So fingers crossed there'll be something again like that tonight. Look, for me, it's going to be a really tough one. The par score in this game is probably a 2-0 defeat. Am I seeing much past that? I'd like to think Newcastle can get themselves on the score sheet tonight, and if they do that, you just never know, do you? I think we might see Andy Carroll at some point tonight or on Wednesday. And you know what? If we do see him on Wednesday, it would be good to see that. It'd be good to see Andy Carroll get out and play in front of fans again. And I'd love to see him get a goal in front of fans, because we only seen him get that one goal against Leicester, and it was there was nobody there to celebrate with, and it was such a shame. Because I was one of the people who was really happy when Andy Carroll came back to this football club, because he understands it, he loves the club, he was so desperate to come back. It just hasn't worked out. He looks so far gone past the player who was even at West Ham a few years ago. But no, I'd like to see him get some minutes, because, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's really disappointing that he's been just cut out of the conversation altogether. Even when games are running out, he's never really brought on, apart from the final 25 seconds in some games. I would like to see him get some game time, because it's a disappointing end. It hasn't worked out for him, but look, he's been a decent player for Newcastle United, and I think Bruce needs to make some decisions on players, really. There's a few players in and around the fringes of this team. We need to work out whether they're going to be here next season, and whether they can actually add any value to this team. I suspect some of them can't, but Matty Longstaff's the one for me that I thought he was thrown under the bus at Christmas. when he was thrown in for those 3 games against Man City, against Leicester, and I can't remember the third one. It was against 3 top sides. He was effectively thrown under the bus. Liverpool, I think it might have been Liverpool. I'm sure he played in that result. He never kicked the ball. He barely kicked the ball for a year, and he was thrown straight into the team and expected to perform 3 games in 8 days. I mean, It was absolutely ridiculous to do that to the lad. I'd like to see him get 3 proper games. I know the games come thinking fast at the end of the season, but I'd like to see him get some proper minutes because, do you know what? There's all too often there's players come through the academy at Newcastle United and don't really get the opportunity to see whether they will be good enough. And I feel like that with Matty Longstaff. I've seen him play for the 23s. I've seen him play lower as well. And I think he's an excellent player. I think he's got a good engine. Look, he's not the quickest, but he's got a good engine. He can get about the pitch. He can score goals and he can make tackles. I really would like to see him get a chance. And I think it's really unfair on the lad that he hasn't had a chance. I've seen he was speaking today, talking about the frustrations. We've seen his brother talking today. But look, these are lads who know what it's all about. They want to play in black and white. And let's see them get a chance. Elliot Anderson, I'm not sure. Hopefully he's got over that injury that he had because he's another, and he's probably the best of the 3, really, when you look at the talent that he has. Just a real silky player, just somebody who can drift into spaces and drift with the ball. And I really, really like him, and he's got a big future. But is Steve Bruce the man to look after these players, to nurture them at Newcastle United? So far, he hasn't proven to be so. But look, it's the end of the season. It's a shot to nothing. It doesn't matter if Newcastle United get beat tonight. And I've got to be honest, I never suspected that these 3 games would mean nothing. So for me, I kind of just feel a bit of relief. I don't sit here worrying, and I genuinely thought we'd be coming into this Man City game and Leicester last week thinking we have to get something from this game to stay up. I really thought it would be in those kind of realms, and we're not. And it isn't cause for celebration, but at the end of the day, I'm just relieved because I haven't talked a lot tonight about the idea of a takeover, but I understand there can be a brighter future for Newcastle United, and one of the key problems in that conversation was relegation. And at least, well, for 12 months at least, we've kind of put that on the back burner, and it gives them a little bit of breathing space to get the important stuff done away from the football pitch. So fingers crossed. Tonight, shot in the dark, doesn't make any difference. Does that mean Newcastle United already at the beach? I'm not sure. A Man City, their eyes sort of on the Champions League final? I doubt it. And even if they are, even if Guardiola's got eyes on winning the ultimate crown, which is something he was brought into Man City to do and has failed to do so far, even if he makes 11 changes tonight, that 11, probably arguably every single one of them would walk into Newcastle United's side. That's just the nature of how far some of these teams in the top 6 are away from clubs like Newcastle United. But that's where we want to be, and that's why staying up this season was so important.
Good stuff, mate. I presume you've got to get off now, mate, to make you do your prep. Are you doing a live thing on the Gazette?
No live tonight. No, we're just doing the usual stuff, analysis, watching the game. Miles Starford, if anybody knows him from the Shields Gazette, he's at the game tonight at St James's Park. So, we'll just be cracking on here.
Did he get a ticket? Did he get a ticket for Sheffield United? People are asking in the chat.
No, I seen somebody put that in. No, I couldn't. I haven't got a season ticket, so I couldn't apply. And also, I was talking about next season when I had me rant on Tuesday. If anybody who didn't see it, have a check of it out and catch it. But I was sticking me. Maybe it's a bit of a tantrum more than a rant. It wasn't quite hasty territory. It was more of a tantrum saying, "Look, you lock me out. I'm going to buy a season ticket. And I'm going." There's going to be enough seat. Look at the 10,000 and look how difficult it was for Newcastle United to get rid of it. It makes us laugh when you go back to Tuesday and all them people posting on saying, I got me ticket. Because everybody did who applied by the looks of it. So I think I'll be all right. If they're not going to let us in the press box, next year, I'll just fork out for a season ticket. And you might catch us in St James's Park somewhere with a laptop on me knees somewhere.
Brilliant stuff, Liam. As always, good to have you on. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. We do have to pre-record the show on Monday, of course, so get your questions in. Me and Liam will be putting out a call for questions on Monday for Tuesday, so any desperate questions you've got for Liam, make sure you keep an eye on his Twitter. Liam, great to have you on, mate. Enjoy the game. Go on, Keith. Yeah, go on.
Liam Kennedy, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Go on, get off with you.
Go on, Liam. You've got time to respond, son. I'm going to give you a chance to respond.
No, It's Keith's world. We're all just living in it. So I'll see you.
See you,
Take
mate.
care, mate. Good night.
Right,
I'll
cheers.
ring tomorrow.
Good stuff. Great crack. Okay, as always, we've only got a short amount of time to get everything else crammed in before Keith gets on to the next section about the takeover. So I'll try and cram in our other sections now. We'll go with Tune Lookalike. And as always, we have been absolutely inundated with these. And to be honest, it's trying to pick the best one. I'm going
It's trying to pick the best one and keeping up with who sent them. Because today, I forgot who sent this one.
But don't worry, I've ended up with a load, and I probably won't even put the one up that you've picked because I've got that many, and I've got them all in this order. I had to load everything on, and I got hit with Keith's stuff as well. So let's just go through these, and a lot of them I've just kept their Twitter accounts on, so we know who sent them. Some of them, by the way, aren't Newcastle United related, which is supposed to be a specification of this whole thing. I'm sure we've had this one before, but Jerry insisted on sending a few last week. But it never gets sick, that one. Of course, Mick Quinn.
That's fantastic.
And Bob Carroll G's. As I said, not all Newcastle United related, but Jackie did send this, yes. And I think this was all in response to the elections. It was, of course, elections week last week. So we then got sent this, which is less complimentary. I'm not sure whether you'd rather be, compared to Herman Munster or Jimmy Cranky. But yeah, I can get the picture. Then we got this one, which I thought was an absolute belter from Jerry.
That was the one I sent, mate. That was the one I sent.
Yeah. So
I got sent loads of the Matt Ritchie, Gordon Ramsay one, but that's the best by a mile for me.
Well, I thought
Gordon Ramsay probably sways list.
I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I knew you'd sent me that one. I got this one again. Not Newcastle United related, but very good. I can definitely see the likeness there. And I'm going to scroll up because I've got a couple of others which I got sent a couple of weeks ago, which I lost. I've got no idea who this other football player is, but that does look like John Joe Shelby with hair.
He's probably a better player.
He's probably a better player, yes. And this one. Again, I've got no idea who that guy is. I mean, maybe people can let us know, but I've got no idea who that is. But somebody just inboxed us and said that's Kraft, and I've got no idea who that guy is. And I got sent this one, which again is rather unnerving, but that is brilliant. So I got sent those three by inbox over the last couple of weeks. Completely forgot to put them up, but now I've got them out. I can delete them off the system. Thanks for that. So the winner had to be this one because we knew Keith was going to be on the show. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah,
that'll do me.
Bruce Willis and Keith Patterson. Absolutely brilliant, Jerry. Absolutely brilliant. So thanks for everybody sending them in. Keep them coming. Keep linking us to them on Twitter. We'll grab them and we'll stick them up on the show. But thanks to Mitch for going through that. I've got to be honest, I'm buzzing with all the names that you've got coming in. Keep them coming. Mirren Bina was quite a good one. Habib B or Hatton Bean Arthur, says Graham Coleman. Beardo, says Sheep Shearer. Fantastic. Sir Bobby seems to be the most popular one at the moment. But ultimately, it's going to be down to John to pick a top three. So, John, I hope you're out there, Q-Tech, writing down your three. 7 o'clock, get us your top three, and then we'll have to vote for them. Shola Amio B is another good one, which I've seen flying around. A Man B, Stave B is another one. Super Maccabee. Vespa which is quite a decent one by Joe. I know that means wasp, he says, not a bee though. B Charnley, I don't think that'll go down too well by anybody. Tom Lynch came up with Beeve Wraith, Beeve Hasty, Beale Mitchell, Keith B and B.M. Kennedy, which is quite good if we're naming a family of bees, whatever a family of bees. But Sir Bobby or Bobby, Gabby Speed, Kenneby was quite a good one. The list is ending.
I saw Titus Bumble, which I thought was a nice little lateral shift on that.
Titus Bumble, yeah. Martin B. Bravka was another one. I could go on. That NUFEB is another one. I think Sir Bobby might get it, but let's say Arabi, Kevin Began, Nobby Solano, Sir Buzzy. They're flying round. Good pun, exactly, Julie. You're right. But yeah, great show. Keep them
buzz
coming
off,
in.
man.
Buzz off.
Um,
John from QTech, get us 3. Send us them on WhatsApp. 7 o'clock. I'll go through them. Keith, back to you with some of this paperwork that you've sent us tonight, which we can get up.
So, John Allen, just 2 things before you put the vote in. A mate of mine just sent one in, says you should call it Sting, because he's a Northeast singer, and that's
Very
pretty
good.
relevant. And the other one I seen up there, which I thought was great, was Viv Busby. I think that's so...
Yeah.
I think it's so relevant, Viv Busby. Secondly, I want to say is if there's any lonely women out there that want Bruce Willis look-alike, my number is my number is 017. I can see all the stuff coming on Twitter saying he's more like Wincy Willis than Bruce Willis, but we'll pass on that. So
Chris Smart says, "Can you beehive, Keith, please? Beehive."
Behave yourself, Sam. So we talked about things changed in the takeover, and there was commonly talked about that those close to the deal, and you know what it's like when you're dealing with someone. You know, if you go into negotiations, if you say, "Can you go and get us that document?" and people say yes, and my information is that people were being told to go and get stuff, and the club were going getting all the information they asked for, and they even I learned this before I took this action on. They even offered more information than was asked, and they were discouraged from giving more information. Now, if somebody asks you for information because they're going to do a takeover, and people say, "No, we've got enough," that means exactly that. It means they've got enough. And if somebody tells you don't need any more, that means you've got enough. But if it's not enough and people's going to turn it down and they decline some more, that in itself will resurface at some stage in the future. And there was a time early on in this case where when Masters was writing the likes of Horton on that letter you saw early on, he was talking about a company from Saudi Arabia wanting to take it over. That company was PIF, and that company is separate to the state, and the club are more than confident that they will prove that. But the problem is, if the arbitration ran as it was, and if they never brought this competition action, you're running on a bench of 3. You don't know if the 2 is going to go against you, and there's a risk you might not win it. I think under competition law, I don't think there's any risk. I believe that the cartel is in operation, and all you've got to do is prove where that cartel was operating. And where it changed, there was a move brought in, which we've got on the timeline, which Gary Hoffman joined, which brings us on to the next little document. I want to satisfy some fans' doubts and skepticism that they think we might have missed something. But if you can bring the document up about Richard Key's
yes. Okay, so this is the screenshot off the website.
There's a video which we're not allowed to play, but it's actually Richard Key's talking to Andy Gray, and it goes along the lines of like, "Good mate of yours, I mean, this guy says, yeah, very good mate. He used to stand on the terraces at Coventry." And he yakkers on, and he says, "Oh, I nearly bought a football club, me and him are really good mates. We go back a long way." And what he does is he tells them they're more than just acquaintances, they're proper mates. And this guy's getting the job as chairman of the Premier League. It's a massively responsible job. Personally, I think if you've got a job of that stature, you shouldn't be telling your acquaintances or your mates anything, really. But then you come out with a bizarre line, and it was on that article where he said, "We've got this little problem." The first thing Gary's got to do is got this little problem that is Newcastle United and the takeover. Now, bear in mind, they were getting documents to fulfill a takeover, and they were telling people they had enough, and PIF's lawyers and the Saudis were more than keen to give more information. Now, when you are going to decide separation, when you're going to decide if a state is separate to a company, the advice I would give you, if you were doing it with a Bangladeshi company, the best thing you can do is go to Bangladesh and find out what the law is there and how under Bangladeshi law you separate a company from the state. How does your law work? And it's normal that if you were going to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and you were trying to determine whether a company was separate from the state, you'd go and ask them. And it's my information, my knowledge, for everything I've asked and tried and dug, that the Premier League never ever sought advice from Saudi Arabia on the separation of the country from PIF. They've never sought that advice. Shahid Fatima, who was working on the side arbitration with Nick DeMarco, has got MENA experience, Middle East, North Africa experience. So she's an expert in that field, in that area, and she's an expert on this very topic. So she will go in there and she'll call expert evidence, and they will always prove separation. But I think what this has shown is that the club realised that even though arbitration should be won in an open and fair and clean court, perhaps they're not prepared to take that risk. And there's another matter which people are always throwing around this last couple of weeks. The naysayers are saying, well, he's only doing this for money. Of course he's doing it for money. That's like saying, if Steve Bruce went to a chip shop, would be at the back of the queue. No, he'd be near the counter. And he'd be picking, he's a good scranner. So just because a man does what a man does, it doesn't make him a bad man. But Mike Ashley, if he has a trait in life, he makes money out of anything and everything. And the man is a money maker. You don't make £3,000 million wealth and not be good at making money. So yes, he's going to get monies for the amount of interest he's lost by the £300 million sale not going through for the last 12 months. He's also going to make money for the legal costs he's contributed, which runs into millions of pounds. He's also going to get money that he's lost because if the club was sold back in March last year or April last year, he wouldn't have had the COVID pandemic. And he wouldn't have lost £75 million on the club during this procedure. So why would he not go and get that? But what fans need to do is stop chucking that bullet in, pretending that it's relevant, because it's not going to be our fight. It's not us that's going to get it. That's going to go to Mike Ashley. What Mike Ashley's then going to do is going to know that the best bid in town is off the Saudis. The PIF, PCP, Reuben Consortium offers the best route to market, the best investment for this football club. It also offers the best bid. There are no more bids kicking around. And this is from the club to me. There's no more bids around at 300 plus million. There's only this one. And that's why they come out and said, we're only interested in that bid. And that's why they're not taking offers off people. So yes, Ashley will get compensation. Yes, he'll go and get some monies, but he's openly said, I want to get rid of the dark forces in football. Like only an idiot will go next week and shout Ashley out because we need Ashley in to get Ashley out. And Mike Ashley is on the same team as us at the minute. It's so obvious. And when you look at what Richard Keys is saying, he's telling you that the chairman of the Premier League, right, and they'll prove it very, very easily in court, everything was rosy. Were you told Mr. So-and-so, were you told Newcastle United that this was going through? At any time were you told different? And somebody might stand up and say, oh, well, we didn't think it was definite. Okay, Mr. Masters, Mr. Hoffman, can you show the club where in writing, in documents or through your solicitors, where you ever told them that it was in doubt in the months of March or April or May? And if you can't, then you must have given the impression that they were fulfilling documents to do a takeover. But then something went sadly wrong because then it stopped being about the company and it became about being a state. And then you were trying to get a prince to become a director of a football club, which you would never do in England with Prince Charles from the Duchy of Cornwall's £1 billion trade. You'll never do it for the Queen of the Crown. So why are you trying to do it? Embarrass this country and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What is your purpose? And what will happen at the same time is disclosure will then dig documents out. So take mine as being irrelevant. The stuff I've got is massive. And in the words of a top competition QC, your evidence would win a competition case, Keith. But then you've got all the club's experiences of what they were feeling, what they were hearing and seeing, and all the documents they were getting off the Premier League, which would be like bombs. And then you've got disclosure. And the disclosure will give you what Man City was saying to Liverpool. And the disclosure will give you what the Premier League was saying to the various big six. And it will show you the emergence of the big picture. Now, they always say in life, start with the end in mind. So the end result is the ASL were formed, came, crashed and burned. So backtrack from that to where we are now, or backtrack from that to April, it was already being talked about back then. It was predicted that 6 clubs would prevent Newcastle joining the market in my letter of the 5th of August, 6th of August. So that letter come through and it said what was happening. I'm not a mind reader. I mean, Amanda Staveley told us that there was people like doing it, and all we did was we stood up and shouted like she would. And right now, it's not going to be a case of if there was something going on, which is often the case in the competition action. It's a case of there was something happening. The result of that was the biggest bomb site in football, which became the Premier League's joining the European Super League. And it crash burned, and it got them top six or the big sixes own fans to lobby, to campaign, and to say the whole thing stinks. So any judge is going to sit there, unless he's been muted or just come back from Mars, he's going, well, I saw the ESL roll out. I know exactly what's happening at this thing. And
Keith, Chris has asked. Sorry to interrupt. Keith's asking this. Chris is asking this question. He's asked it a couple of times. I can't get in touch. I can't get these questions out because you're obviously on a bit of a run. He's saying, who was the Premier League's outside legal advice from, or is that not known? He said, was it Bird and Bird?
All of football uses Bird and Bird. So Bird and Bird represent the EFL, the FA, and the Premier League. Okay. So when the EFL had 9 companies saying they were short of cash, and when the EFL was struggling to get money off the Premier League, Boris let them go back early under COVID, and he let them resume football on the understanding that they would support the lesser clubs out of the TV money. And the government agreed that they would get all the TV right money to get through COVID. And what happened is, that the DCMS got the Premier League in court and questioned why they weren't doing it. So you had Premier League on one screen, EFL on another screen. Can you remember when the EFL guy said all the wrong things and he got thrown out? He had to leave the job. What happened is people said, well, those two people never looked like they're on a different team. Well, it would have been hard because they both used the same company of lawyers. So Bird and Bird represented the EFL and Bird and Bird represented the EPL. And they were in dispute over some money. So how the lower league teams are ever going to resolve that? Because if a lower league team was going bust, they said the EFL, go in there and get our lawyers on the EPL. They just had to go next door because it's the same firm. So that in itself isn't great. That in itself brings questions, and it brings questions about football as a whole. And that's why we've revealed that they're now doing a fans review. And I named who the woman that would do the fans review was on the 27th of December in a letter to Boris Johnson. She was appointed in March. Why did it take him 12 weeks to do what I told him he was going to appoint? So it's not clever on my behalf. It just stinks on their behalf. It's all, I can tell you what the results of the review is. Steve Hasty, you know what the results of the review is. You already know what the results are.
Yeah.
We know what the results that they're going to find. What they've got to do is they've got to do the review to make it fit the results they're going to find. They're going to use a cracking organisation, the FSL, but them people are paid for by the Premier League. Premier League fund their organisation. So the people that's going to investigate the Premier League are funded by the Premier League. And I'm at the point now where I'm just sick to death of how corrupt it is. And I said, if we don't get this takeover, I'll watch football again. And it'll kill us. Yeah. But that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where football's rotten to the core. And I want to get back to things where anybody can win the league like Leicester. And I want to get back to things where you can't name who's going to be in the cup final next May. And where I want to get back, I'm a dreamer. I want to get back to where the Football League Cup's worth winning. It's all right cramming it all up to Europe, but it's nice to get into Europe. But British football and English football is far greater than that. And if you haven't learned that with fans out the ground, you never will. Next point that I want to go on to is a point where...
Can I just say, Keith, before you go on, I've got 2 documents in front of us that might interest you. The first document's called English Football and Its Governance, and it was a report that was written for Parliament, for the Parliamentary Football Group. And it talks about what's wrong with the governance of football. It's dated April 2009. There's stuff in there that they were told about and that the government has ignored subsequently. So that's 11 years. I've got another document here that was a report that was written called The Corporate Governance of Professional Football Clubs in England. Okay. Very, very interesting document written by a couple of intellectuals, but it delves into everything that's happened from the Taylor report onwards. And the Taylor report, obviously, we all know that was from Hillsborough and looked at the reorganisation of football. It then led to the introduction of the Premier League, etc., etc. And this document is dated 2005. And the stuff in there, all talking about governance and how football should be run and what needs to be done to make football clubs, but more importantly, the leagues and the people within the leagues accountable, nothing was ever done. So there's 2 reports straight away on my table there that I can talk about, and I can pass to you, and we can see. And if people are interested and they want to delve in and they want to look at in this review that you're talking about football governance, I watched a video and I've sent the link to you guys. It was a video with Dave Richards, who was Sir David Richards. He is now. He was the chairman of the Premier League from the start of the Premier League until 2012, and the man left in 2012 after the debacle that went through because he was also involved he was also represented in Europe. He was represented with the FA. His fingers were into everything, and he dropped the baton, didn't he, when he turned around and said that the reason that we didn't get the World Cup in 2018 was because of the way that the Europeans stitched were up. And since 2012, that man has complained bitterly about what is basically xenophobia towards the English Football League. And on this, or the English football, on this podcast that we watched last night, he still thinks that the ESL is a good thing. Even though he's the only man in Britain who now, and he was in charge of the Premier League for years, 19 years he ran the Premier League, and that man still thinks that the ESL was a good thing and it should come back. And when all the things that we talk about governance and all the things in these reports, it's when you listen to that man and you realise why none of it happened. That's what we're up against. And I recommend that people do some of their own digging and find out and start to read up on football. And start to read up and look at some of these reviews and listen to the xenophobia that comes out. Where on the thing yesterday when they talked about the ESL and he talked about the crumbling, and he was convinced that the whole thing had died because of European football, and he said it was only coming in for European football. And apparently, English football is governed perfectly according to that man. There is not a single problem in the governance of football. Gobsmacking.
Right. If I can just pick up on 3 things that Keith said. One about Hoffman. We were talking about Hoffman about 6 months ago, that nobody was raising the question. When did it change? Why did it change? And what's Hoffman's role in this? And it's never been questioned hard enough for me by so many people. The next thing is Mike Ashley. We touched on this last week. I had a little rant about it. He hasn't suddenly become a philanthropist. He doesn't really care about Newcastle United. He never has done for years. What he cares about is getting out with the best bid possible and being recompensed for what he's lost. He's lost so many business opportunities by not having 300 million sitting in his back pocket. So yes, he's after money. He's absolutely after money. But for once, this is one thing where the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's the way we've got to look at this. It's not about, it's not about he suddenly changed and wants the best for Newcastle United. That's bullshit. And finally, something you touched on, Keith, about never predicting dates. I once did predict a date, and I got burned for it badly.
I didn't know.
But I'll tell everybody why I got burned for it badly, because I can talk with a bit more freedom now. Round about the 1st of June. I was told from a superb source in the Saudi press that a soft yes was given. And that guy is a respected sports journalist here in the Middle East. And he had prepared the website, the web page that would go up with all the takeover news on it. He had graphics, he had interviews with Amanda Stavely, he had a history in Newcastle United, he had all sorts written. He was told by his editor, do not move from your laptop for the next 48 hours. When you get the message from me, push the button, it goes live. Yeah. And he, out the grace of his good heart, told me this and said, Mitch, run with it. Tell everybody they're going to get some good news. Then there's a mate of mine, Geordie lad, who works for one of the newspapers in this part of the world as well. He works in graphics. He was saying, Mitch, I've just laid out the graphics for the takeover. Very similar thing. So 2 different sources, 2 different newspapers, all saying there's a soft yes being given. It's just a matter of hours. And that was around about June the 1st. And then everything changed. And it's the one time I've ever gone cock a hoop on a date. And yeah, I got my ass burned with it. But that's the information I was getting. That there's a soft yes being given. We've got everything ready to go. All we've got to do is push the button, because now that's what it is. It's publish by pushing a button. You know, one of them's told, don't move from your laptop next 48 hours. I'll tell you when to push it. Boom. And so something in a very short period of time, changed significantly enough to put all of that on hold. A week later, I'm getting messages saying, look, I'm being told, keep it. It's ready to go. Just keep it ready to go. And then a lot of things changed.
You were talking there, Mitch, about happening 1st of June or something. And a lot of people thought Hoffman's joined in June, July, but he actually joined in May.
Joined in May.
If you see his appointment date was in May, and when you look at the timeline, I mean, I've seen the timeline document today, and it's extensive that we've built up. And basically, you put a cursor up and go to a date. You can just go to June on this thing, and then all these documents come up here, and they say what happened in June and what changed. And on our timeline, it shows you what was happening. And one of the big significant things, I remember when I first spoke to the club, they said, "What do you think as a fan happened?" Because they knew we'd done a load of research. They knew we were competition driven, and they said, "What do you think happened?" And I said, "We know what happened. We know exactly what happened." Because they were getting nothing's wrong, and then it just went wrong overnight, which is what you were saying, Mitch. And when you put that out, you had every right to. But what happened was there was a change of mood, and the mood was created by the so-called Big Six, and they brought Hoffman in to close this down. Because if Newcastle United were empowered with the backing of the richest company on the planet, or the richest wealth fund, they would have, shattered that Big Six, and it would have been Newcastle plus 5 others. Albeit since this has happened, Newcastle's future buyers have come forward and been very credible in how they've dismissed it.
It stunk then, and it stinks even more now.
Yeah.
A year down the line, nearly, and it stinks to high heaven, and that's why, and I think everybody involved on the buyer and seller side now are looking to apply pressure every way possible, and that's where the competition case comes in beautifully.
And it was never going to happen without the competition case, and that's been my spat and my fight from the off and out of NCSL. There's something I just want to say, because I got a text on them pictures that were donated. They were donated by all the lads at NCSL. There's 4 of us at NCSL now, and the other 3 lads put contributions in, and I got them those things. We were going to give it another auction, Steve, that you were running, but it didn't happen. The auction folded, so that's why we're giving it to Steve Hasty for the food bank.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, 5:07. Still got a couple of regular things to do. Obviously, there's the team. I put it up. I'll be doing Matchday Live, 7:35. I start that with a Matchday Live team. But Dubravka, Murphy, Kraft, Fernandez, Dummett, Ritchie, Shelby, Willock, Almiron, Allinson Maximin, and Joe Linton. On the bench, Gillespie, Clark, Longstaff, Carroll, Gale, Lewis, Hendrick, Manquillo, and Longstaff. Man City reserves line up like this: Carson, Walker, Garcia, Ake, Cancelo, Rodrigo, Gundogan, Bernardo, Torres, Sterling, and Jesus, and Stefan, Diaz, Stones, Laporte, Mendy, Fernandinho, Mahrez, Foden, and Palmer on the bench for Man City. 7:35 live coverage with the NUFC Matters team. Join us at 7:35 directly after this show. Time now for... As always, Steve Hasty picks out a few tweets of the week, and some fairly light-hearted ones, and some good ones, celebrating the fact that Newcastle managed to finally secure the points to stay up. And this one was from Mairdad, of course, somebody who's become quite a well-known name and face to Newcastle United supporters, as the husband of Amanda Staveley. And obviously he's quite careful about what he tweets, but he put that one out, Steve, didn't he? That deserves a tweet. Well done, NUFC. Class performance.
And it was a class performance, by the way. So he's absolutely nailed it there, hasn't he?
Ah, he has, mate. He has. And then we've got this one.
Yeah, Andy. Andy Long. He's never been one of us, but he's most definitely one of them. I don't know who I was referring to.
I think it was Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce. It was Steve Bruce.
Was that what you referred to?
It was.
Yeah.
This was before the Leicester second half.
That's right. Yeah. Bruce.
Because we're winning.
That's the word. Let them have a drink, relax, and cut exactly the same players they went in. Hey, and it worked for another 80 minutes as well, or another 35 minutes. Got it spot on there, mate, for the 35 minutes. Just the last 10 that we started panicking.
Yeah, this one was just quite a funny cartoon from Ian Hull.
And it's a classic, isn't it? You know, you're going to have to read that out, Steve, because I've got my specs with us.
Yeah, 6 in a row, you know. That's is the guy in the Sunderland top. He says, what? Season's outside the Premier League? which I thought was brilliant. This one I had to laugh at. And this comes from just the way sometimes the screen finishes. Dr. Squat Pump says, I didn't know you were affected with Pickford arm syndrome. You see the arm? That's classic.
That's really good.
It's an absolute classic, that one. We've got this one as well from Swampy.
Yes, if I was on a desert island with Rafa Benitez, I'd build him a mountain-sized monument. From was on with Steve Bruce had feet, whatever, to cannibals. bit harsh. He's manager of the month, man. How are you?
Exactly. And I thought this one was nice, and we'll finish off with this one. This one was from the Food Bank. Charity Tuesday. A huge thanks to me, to John at QTech, to Keith from NCSL, Steve Hasty, Neil Mitchell, and everyone connected with NUFC Matters for raising over £5,000 for the West End Food Bank, which makes a huge difference locally. #GenerousGeordies. And I think that deservedly wins Tweet of the Week from the Food Bank. Thanks very much for that to the guys down there. We don't ask for thanks. We do it, as I say, because we value, the work that you do down there and everything that's been done for the Food Bank over the last 12 months, which has been testing for everybody. But that is your tweet. Okay,
Alan's not on his own, by the way. And there's a bid for Alan of 100 quid. We've got a bid for Gazza at 100 quid. And we've got a bid for Kevin Keane at 150 quid. So brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Pleased about that.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Okay. Well, keep us posted on that.
Stuart from the Food Banks just texted us and said, can we keep it going over the weekend? He put it on Facebook and he put it on Instagram and the team run.
Brilliant.
We'll keep it going, and at a certain point I'll rely on Stuart to think how it should be and how long we'll keep it going. But that's brilliant. Some excellent bids there from some really decent people.
Well done, great stuff. And talking about bids from really decent people, the Rant Man T-shirt has made another 50 quid. That has gone to, if you bear with us 2 seconds, Gary McAlpine. He had the winning bid of £50. So you are now the proud owner of that T-shirt. If you contact John at QTech, he will sort you out, and contact Steve Hasty. I'll copy you both in on the tweet so that you can do the business and pass the relevant details on for the food bank. So great stuff.
He knocked my mother's £5 bid into a cocked hat there, hasn't he?
Well, he has, yeah. There's no doubt about that. Now, John from QTech has also been in touch with the B name contenders. You will be fully aware by now that we have a sponsor this month which has a B as its logo, skipsandbins.com, and there is the B in question. So the names which have come into the top 3 are, in no particular order, Shola Amiobi, Beardsley, Sir Bob B. Okay, so Bobby's definitely been the most popular in the chat, I would say, and John agrees. Beardsley's been quite popular as well. So I'm gonna do the Simon Cowell vote. I'll have the cast and vote if there's a draw. Okay, Keith, your selection: Sir Bobby, Shola Amiobi, or Beardsley?
Sir Bobby.
Sir Bobby. That's 1 vote for Sir Bobby. Steve Hasty.
He's my favourite player at Newcastle. But I'm still Sir Bobby. Sorry, Peter.
So you've gone by Sir Bobby?
I got by Sir Bobby as well.
Okay. Neil, over to you.
torn between all three.
Yep.
Between the man who can ride a bike while eating an apple, and one of the best players ever to grace the hallowed turf, and one of the nicest men in football, and it's got to be Sir Bobby for me as well. Like,
Well, that's a clean sweep, and I said Sir Bobby as well. So Sir Bobby is the name of the bee. Scott from Skips and Bins, if you're watching, mate, you now have a name. It is Sir Bob B. So there we go. Great stuff, great tribute, and a great guy all round.
Has John got the winner for the budgie question yet as well?
Yes, he has, and the winner was Barry Hogan, and the answer for that question, Mitch, was 29. Is that right?
29. Yep, 29.
Wow. 29 clubs that John Burridge played for. That is
no wonder he comes up. No wonder he comes up nearly every Thursday night at some stage.
Yeah, whenever we do the retro.
So Wednesday night, rather.
Wednesday night, yeah, you're right.
Wednesday night, right.
Absolutely mental. Okay, those of you who...
An idol at every club as well. 29 idols.
An idol at every club, yeah, 100% right. Okay, as you know as well, Q-Tech do a monthly competition. You get a clue each week, and basically it's to win a load of NUFC Matters goodies this week's. So what he's put the prize in here. You get... hoodies, 3 T-shirts and mugs. That's what's up for grabs this week. So you collect the clues, and then the final clue comes in, and then you have an answer from that final clue at the end of the month. So your clue this week is Crooktown. Crooktown. I played there once and I managed there. Crooktown is your clue. So write the clue down and... keep that somewhere safe, and you will get your next clue next week, and in with a chance of winning something very special from the NUFC Matters cupboard. So great stuff. Okay, it is that time of the week again. Quite quick and simple this week. It was a conversation which was aimed at me and Keith. Mike Anderson, well done, mate. He says, it's certainly not wannabe celebrity fan Keith and his idol, the racist platforming wannabe gangster and full-time bell-end wraith. I'd never seen a tweet where you could get as many insults into one tweet. So thanks for that, Mike. Big thank you to you. It didn't go unnoticed, but it doesn't bother me at all, mate. And it gives us a chance to play the cat as well, which I thoroughly enjoy, and I know everybody else does. Thanks for that, guys. As always, keep them coming. Any suggestions for Tweet of the Week, any suggestions for Lookalikey, and any suggestions for Troll of the Week, point them in my direction, and we'll try and make them part of the show. As we've said, we're trying to cram as much of this takeover talk in as possible tonight. I do just want to say thanks once again to every single person who follows the cult on YouTube, because the figures are in again for last month, and there we go. 1,528 new subscribers. 259,000 total views, 4.9 million minutes watched in one calendar month. So thank you, everybody, for your support.
Still can't believe this, mate. We started chewing the fat on Instagram because we were both locked down and bored. And then we've gone on. People take time out that Friday to watch us talk shit. And frankly, I still can't believe it. And I kind of thank everybody. It's such a humbling thing. It really is. And the things that are coming out of this now, it gobsmacks us every time.
It does. And you know what? And there's a big part of the team. I know Friday night's a show that everybody loves. I mean, it gets the biggest viewing figures, over 1,000 watch every Friday now. You know, we end up with, sometimes in the region of anything between 6,000 and 8,000 people watch this one. And it's really humbling. But, the quality of the crack from the guests. And we've had, Ian Mearns was great earlier on this year. Yeah. We've had, he brought something a bit different. We've brought Keith in because of Keith's connections with the takeover and because we felt he deserved a platform. Liam Kennedy's been great, absolutely superb. But everybody who contributes to the show is fantastic. We do put a bit more effort into this one with the little things that we do. We've got 2 hours to fill. But to be honest, we could sit and chat about one subject, us guys, because like everybody knows, it's like being down in the pub. And a lot of people saying they love the Friday nights. And, hopefully we're moving out of the pandemic, but we'll still be doing the shows. And, I made a commitment to people. I said earlier this week, I'm going to carry on doing them. I've enjoyed doing them. It might be 1 week, there's not as many shows, but at least, we'll always endeavour in some way, shape or form, we'll make sure we do Friday for you. But thanks again, everybody in the chat. Honestly, you make it because it's your show. And, we ask the questions that you want to ask. And we ask the guests. And when you think about it in particular, Mitch has just said we started it on Instagram, but we actually had a lot of ex-players on virtually every week. When you think about it now, this is made up of fans and reporters and people who just love the club. The ex-players, don't really play too much of a part, with the exception of Supermac, and who comes on every week. The ex-players, we don't rely on them to build it up. And
they just tune in to watch now, Steve.
They tune in to watch, and a big shout out to them all because they're all legends. And I know, the summer's coming up. I will get a few of the lads back on. I know a few of them are keen to come back on. Lee Clark's going to come on, tell us how his experience is going in his new managerial job. Steve Howie's going to come on, talk about his charity walk, which is coming up, and I want everybody to support in the next few weeks. Warren Barton's going to come back on at the end of the season. We've got loads lined up, loads of ex-players lined up. So, from my perspective, just thanks again, everybody. And I know I've got other content on here, which is different. Some people like it, some people don't. But you know what? Thanks, everybody, again. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for your support. It means a hell of a lot. Right, we've got 12 minutes left before I've got to cut the show off and move on to Matchday Live. So let's try and get through this last letter, Keith, that you sent us, which and give us the background of it. I can read it out if you need us to. Anyway.
I mean, basically, if you put the letter up, the letter is commonly known in the case as the beIN letter, and this is the letter that I sent to the EPL with the 14 page. Basically, they hit us back, and if you can read the first 4 lines out, Steve. First 4 lines.
So the first 4 lines after "Dear Sir, I am writing to you as the chief executive of beIN Media Group, one of the Premier League's largest worldwide broadcast partners, and consequently one of the largest investors in English football."
So what they've proven there is that they've got skin in the game. So if they act illegally, they are confirming in this letter that they actually have a financial vested interest in the Premier League and everything that goes through it. They are a player. Okay, so in court, you'll see at the end of this letter who wrote it, and in court, that letter becomes somebody who's very much involved. Next paragraph says,
over recent days, media are reporting on the potential acquisition of a Premier League club, Newcastle United Football Club, by a group backed by the Saudi Arabia government via its Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, bracket KSA, PIF, bracket. So
what they're trying to do there, they're trying to group Saudi Arabia with PIF, but what they're saying is, they're telling you that they're writing to people to talk about the takeover of Newcastle United. Go to the next bit I've highlighted.
Okay, and the top part says, it is within this context that I strongly and urgently suggest that you request the Premier League to fully investigate the potential acquirer of Newcastle United.
So what they're doing is, first of all, they've got skin in the game. Next, they turn around and saying, we're concerned about Newcastle. And the third thing they're doing, they're telling the people, the recipient of this letter, that they want them to investigate the takeover of Newcastle. Scan down to the next thing I've highlighted, because there's a lot of copy and I just want to get through it.
So the next part that's been highlighted is, it is no exaggeration to say that the future economic model of football is at stake. And then the next paragraph after that.
If you stop there, they're saying that the next future, they're saying football's at stake. Now, since writing this letter, the ESL has developed. So if this takeover Newcastle is making football at stake, any QC that gets them on the stand or gets the ESL and AFL on the stand, they're going to ask this question. Sorry, the EPL, they're going to ask this question. So if Newcastle United's takeover had football at stake, tell us what the ESL did. Tell us what you, Mr. Masters, and you, Mr. Hoffman, in allowing, because I think during the case will prove that Masters and Hoffman were involved and knew about the ESL coming out. I think all this is going to come out in evidence. So if Newcastle's takeover was going to damage or alter or impact football, tell us what the ESL was going to do to football. Go to the next bit.
Okay, so the next line reads, bear with us, it says, Premier League office or their management who have done more than any single entity in world sport to combat Saudi Arabia's operation.
So they're telling you in a letter, remember they've got financial interest in this, that the Premier League are doing something to combat. Now, I don't know if you understand combat like me, but combat is fight, and combat is war, and combat is throwing weapons at people. And what they're saying is no organisation in the world has done more than the EPL to combat Saudi Arabia. But bear in mind, this is like stopping a Czechoslovakian company buying an organisation in Britain when they've got a war with the Czech government.
Keith, it was bloody different when the EPL took the 3 o'clock kickoffs off of beIN because their encryption wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
We had a 3-month period here in the UAE where we couldn't get any of the 3 o'clock kickoffs because the Premier League had said your encryption's not good enough. It's too easy to pirate. It's getting onto streams all over the world. We're taking the 3 o'clock kickoffs off you.
So what they do is they change the rules to suit themselves, but they tell you in this letter. He's telling you in this letter. This is the top man at beIN Sports is telling you that nobody's worked harder than the Premier League to combat what's been going on in Saudi Arabia. It's got nothing to do with the company in Saudi Arabia, nothing at all. And some company in Saudi Arabia that wants to buy a football club should be penalised. But it's telling you that there's a war already running between the EPL and that state. Go to the next bit.
That one there, Keith, dear me, that top line. Am I reading that right? I know I'm got respect on.
So the top line says beIN Sports strongly oppose the proposed takeover.
Now, this is all going to become relevant because at the start I said there was 3 parts that prove anti-competitive behaviour, or three kinds of behaviour. One is collusion, grouping together, and you'll find that will come out the ESL, the European Super League. The second thing is abuse of a dominant position, which will be probably lobbied against the Premier League. But what this case is going to do, it's going to develop an action which is going to call it collective of beINs. And a collective of beINs is a group of people. And early on, Billy Train's son put something up and he said, is it the big 6, Keith, plus beIN? Yeah, very much. So it's 6 companies who are predicted on the 5th of August, plus beIN Sports, plus the Premier League, all working together to stop the takeover of Newcastle United.
And plus, there's public evidence that they lobbied all the broadcast partners. They lobbied the BBC, they lobbied BT Sports, they lobbied Sky Sports, and they lobbied Amazon. Now, the Amazon one's very interesting because I don't see anybody lobbying Amazon to stop them selling Fire Sticks that you can mod to put Cody on. And 2, Amazon released a statement after the ESL saying there's nothing to do with us, mind. Nobody asked if it was anything to do with them, so why did they release that statement?
So
good point.
So if you put all the broadcasters together, plus the top 6, plus the Premier League, plus beIN, you've got what is classed in competition law as a collection of it's a collective, it's a group of beINs. And so what they're doing is they're working together. And what you'll do is you'll get evidence coming out in disclosure, which shows what they were saying to each other. And at that point, for me, it crashes. I can't imagine that they can run it. And when I saw Masters on the stand yesterday, I thought, by God, son, you're gonna have to get a holiday before you go in the car because they'll mutilate you. They will put you on the stand and they will pick at you, and an average QC will tear you to shreds. And there's a saying in life, you can put me on the stand, and people have accused me of everything in this case. And when you get death threats and when you get blackmail attempts, seriously, it's how you react and how I react. I get stronger. I mean, this week I've been looking to do a marketing campaign about Project Zebra, and I'm thinking about throwing a few quid at something to have a giggle, you know, and to get something out there in the press that promotes what we do. And I'm doing more and more and more and more to make this takeover happen. When it stops, when it's done, then I'll just pack in. You know, I can just wrap in. But right now, go back that letter, because he's telling you now that they strongly object. Go to the next bit on the letter. Let's get the letter out the way.
That's the last bit of letter, mate. Sorry, that's all I've got, and I've taken the rest away.
The very bottom had who signed it, and the person who signed it was the top man at beIN Sports, and he's the top guy. So I went to our QC and I said, "Is that enough?" And he says, "What you need to do is prove that letter was sent out." So what I did was I worked with an organisation, and what I can't show you tonight is the evidence I've got there, but I'm prepared to tell you what the evidence states. I've got a document which is with our football club and their legal team. And basically what it does, it confirms that letter was sent out. And the letter is by a legal person, and he asks a question. He said, you've published our letter, and there's a bit of criticism that it wasn't published correctly. And then he goes on and asks a killer question. He says, what's the difference between beIN Sports lobbying football clubs to stop the takeover and you people lobbying for a takeover? And our competition QC said, very easy answer. You lobbying for a takeover is legally legitimate, and you lobbying clubs to stop the takeover is classed as collective lobbying, and it's against the law, and it will crash the case to pieces. So I then wrote to the Premier League via our QC, and we hit them at this point. We said, there's the beIN letter, that amounts to collective lobbying, we coming after you. And they wrote back to me, and I want you to go to this reference, and they sent us a copy of Chia Wanya's letter, the letter that Richard Masters wrote. And you can all get it, it's a public document. You've just seen that letter on there, and I'm prepared, if you want to see a copy of that beIN letter, go to Liam Kennedy's, because he's already had it. He's already published that letter before. So go to Liam and see on Liam's thing, can you send us the beIN letter? A few people's asked me on it yet. And they say to me in a letter that the letter that Chia Wanya answers that beIN letter. My competition QC said if that's the best they can do, you will smash them round the courtroom. So that's why Newcastle will win the case, because they can't answer that very point. They can't answer the beIN point. But they also have a legal executive that's asking, what's the matter with collective lobbying? Well, obviously, he doesn't know very much about competition law. But what I've noticed over the last few weeks, there's a lot of lawyers coming forward. And I've checked, you know, our legal team have looked at them lawyers. One's a student in Leeds. One works one does criminal law. One does conveyancing properties. And another one, the first line on his thing, what are you good at? He legalizes sex workers. Why is he giving advice to fans about competition law? I'm not a lawyer, but I know where to buy the best competition experience in the country. I know how to buy that in. I'm a purveyor. I buy competition law experience. And these people who are going out telling fans that it's this and that, they haven't got a clue. If you can have a go at me all you want, you can personally attack us. But while you're doing it, I'll tell you what I want to say tonight before I go is I spoke to a lawyer this week, and he said there's another thing come up, which I've put through to the legal team. He said, this week, there's a case where the government have passed something where they've given Richard Masters permission to quash competition law to get the TV deal through. Because what they've done is they haven't lobbied it or put it out there. They've said to the people, we're not letting anyone bid for it. We've given it to our existing people. To do that, there's a risk of competition law because you haven't let people bid on it. And the competition guy turned around and said, in doing that, I find it hard to believe that the EPL wouldn't have given assurances to the government, because they can't do that and say, well, you're part of a competition action. How can you give people leniency towards competition and then let them get away with being in an action with Newcastle United? And the lawyer turned around and said, he said, I think somewhere along the line, the EPL might have given assurances to government that this case will end or this case won't run or whatever. We don't know. We just got to wait and see. But thanks to everybody.
That's really interesting.
Can I say before I go? Because can I say thanks to everybody for the backing you've given us. you've multiplied any dream I had of getting support of the fans. And I've got to thank the people who's attacked us, because what they've done is they've made us more relevant. And the people who's attacked me have made me, better accepted. So I think the people who's come and attacked us have made 99% of the fan base support me, and the support's way better than I dreamt of. Thanks.
Got 1 minute. Got 1 minute left. Over to you, Steve Hasty.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's a little piece that came out about 3 hours ago from DCMS that said they were mindful of passing that exclusion order to allow them to carry on doing what they're doing. But what they've also said is they are going to wait until the 28th of May, and they are allowing all the other broadcasters who may wish to put a bid in, or may wish to say, hang on a minute, we're not happy with this. So there's a little bit of a window of opportunity there for other broadcasters to step in and go, we want to collectively put an offer in, a counter offer, and not go with the current thing, because that particular deal that the Premier League are proposing was to add an extra £100 million over 3 years to the deal in terms of what it would do for the pyramid. But when you break that down and you see that £100 million, that works out at £5 million over 3 years from every Premier League club. And you're talking about £1.7, £1.8 million a year over that 3 year period to prop up, from each club to prop up, in addition to what they're already paying, the pyramid. And quite frankly, that's an insult. It's an insult.
Yeah. It is.
Amazing stuff. I make no apologies for less input from Mitch and Steve and me tonight, because what Keith's got to say tonight was very important. Judging by the comments, everybody in the chat has thoroughly enjoyed what Keith has had to say, and apologies as well if you didn't get exactly what you wanted out of Liam tonight. But as I say, Keith had a lot to say tonight. As you say, we don't prepare these shows, but what Keith sent us was too good not to put on tonight, and it's much appreciated, and as you say, very valid. So Keith will be back next week. We'll have Keith on until this takeover goes through, I'm afraid. So tune in, and that'll be next Friday. But I'm going to have a quick 2 minute break while I move from one room to another and go and get my TV set up to do Matchday Live. And if you've never done Matchday Live before, it's well worth a visit. If you don't like to listen to the biased pundits on various TV networks, come and join the gang. That's a great little thing that was knocked up last week. That was Leicester last week. We do have a laugh. We do have a joy when the goals go in, and I just don't think any of us could have expected that result at Leicester, which would secure our survival. But
what about
Newcastle United.
Predictions for tonight?
Give us a quick one. Go for it, Keith. Quick prediction.
2-2.
2-2. Okay, Steve?
2-1.
Who
And Mitch.
I'll go with the Desmond as well.
Okay, I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Newcastle.
What's Hasty saying? 2-1 Newcastle.
2-1 Newcastle, yeah.
I'll go with Steve. You can go for the old Desmond 2. Yeah. We'll go for the 2-1
now, Steve.
Great stuff. Don't forget, guys, I'm back with Mick Lowe's tomorrow, 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, just for a quick hour. Mick Lowe's will have a lot to say, I am sure, and we'll be talking about tonight's game as well. But thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to everybody who's bid, and new t-shirt as well is going up. It's this one, Sexy Beast. There he is, Mitch, in his best gear. That's the new Food Bank t-shirt. That'll be going on Twitter. Get bidding on that, and we'll be doing the announcement of that next Friday. But great show. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Take care. Good night. God bless.
Right.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the